Hey, welcome in everybody. My name is Colton.
This is Ryan. This is our podcast, the Did You See That podcast, also known as our general manager tryout tape.
Yeah, we're going to keep posting these once or twice a week until somebody picks one of us up and we get to run one of the teams in the state of Ohio.
Amen to that. So keep your ears open, everybody. If you know somebody that knows somebody, check us out on LinkedIn.
Definitely. Thanks for listening. All right, well, welcome back to Did You See That, the awesome Cleveland sports podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Colton. This is Ryan. And
welcome in. It's good to see everybody. I know we got those big 6 subscribers out there, so big shout out individually to each one of you. Appreciate the support.
Ryan, I won't tell you, but I guess I am right now. I'm one of the subscribers, but I appreciate the love.
Colton Lewis, thank you. Any of the other 5 subscribers, if you email us at didyouseethatsports.com, I will write you a handwritten thank you note. So
I will as well. You will get 2 handwritten thank you notes. Sad for those 6 subscribers. We did a podcast last Thursday that was very good.
Excellent.
Probably our best one. It was our best one for sure.
You know that Tenacious D song, The Greatest Song Ever?
Yes.
It was that, but podcast.
It was probably a little bit better, I'm not going to lie. But it was only my audio. So
maybe that's why it was so good.
It is probably, yeah, actually listening back, I have it saved in a special file. But no, we didn't get to put it out. We talked about a lot of things. One huge one, we'll start the show off right here. We'll dive into the NFL. The Deshaun Watson news is broke since the last time we talked. It's been beat to death. So we are not going to talk about it anymore until it matters again. But in general, the Browns are going to keep rolling, and it's going to be tough, and then they'll have a quarterback back, and we'll see what it's like when he gets there. I think that was kind of the gist of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say. There's so many other cases in the NFL that are similar, and it'll be interesting to see what they end up deciding on for those people. Alvin Kamara and, Dalvin Cook even last year had something come up that was had some domestic abuse, but also some extortion tied in. So the NFL has its hands full, but there's not much for us to talk about. Nothing's going to change, and it is what it is. So if we were going to talk about the Browns, I say give me all that Cade York stock. I want it all. I feel like we have Phil Dawson 2.0 coming to us right now.
Can I get a York jersey? Because
oh, for sure,
he's locked in, man. Barring injury, he can stay as long as he wants. Everybody loves him. I've never seen a kicker with the immediate praise. He hasn't even. Justin Tucker's the only other one I remember people being preseason. They're like, this guy's gonna be great forever, and then he was.
Yeah, they had God, who was the guy? There was somebody.
Aguayo.
Didn't Tampa Bay take somebody in the
Roberto
third round?
Aguayo.
Yeah. And
he had
just
never missed.
Flamed out.
Ever. He had never missed.
Yeah.
And he, I think, missed his first 5 or 6 or something ridiculous in the NFL and then never really recovered.
Yeah, it is weird, to see this transition in NFL where kickers are totally ostracized and not part of the team, and just they're not real football players. And in the last 3 years or so, Tucker's always had respect, but people love McPherson. They're just it's cool to be a kicker all of a sudden. So I'm going to get on this train a little early, and I'm going to get with York, and I'm all in on Cade York. So.
Hey, I like it. I'm behind you on that. I could get behind a Cade York jersey if you want to send it my way. I'm on board. Other Browns news today was cut down day. Did you have any cuts that jumped out to you that you saw as different or interesting?
No, I don't think so. Nothing jumped out at me. I think we talked on the Lost Pod about my fantasy steal pick was Damian Fierce. And all the love he was getting, and then to see Marlon Mack get cut, that I wasn't surprised with that one. I think my biggest surprise is players that still aren't signed. I know OBJ is off of an injury, but no one's offered him or they haven't come to terms. You don't hear a lot of interest. You still have Ndamukong Suh out there with no team. So it's interesting to me that there is quite a bit of talent out there, but a lot of teams seem to say, hey, we're moving on without these players.
It's getting late too. Like, you would have thought that they would have found a home by now if they're going to play. Do you think they're just not? Like the couple you named right there. I think OBJ over Sue. If one of them was to retire, I think Sue's on his just walks.
Yeah, he hasn't. It doesn't seem like he's made a lot of friends throughout the league. The way he has played and the way he's negotiated contracts, he's really truly kind of been a mercenary type style. OBJ, he's so supremely talented. I think someone's going to roll the dice on injury or no injury if they can get him for cheap. And you saw what he did last year, coming in and only playing a few games with an organization. I could argue he doesn't get hurt in the Super Bowl, he might be the MVP of that game.
Yeah, he was on his way. And, he does that. And he had done that with every team except the Browns. So how unfortunate. NFL cut down day is like a sad version of NBA signing day. I don't even know. Like NBA free agency, it's the exact opposite. This is one of the saddest days on Twitter where you just scroll through and it's people's dreams just exploding. It is interesting, though. We had a couple trades, none that I think really are going to move the needle for any team. The Saints sold on a corner, sent him up to the Eagles, so the Eagles are, buying, trying to build depth. Everybody's all in on the Eagles. Another thing from the Lost Pod was my favorite, bad team that might be good for fantasy it's the Eagles. I think they're going to be bad, but it's just me. And if they are, I'm going to feel awesome. But I'm not seeing it, man. It's that, and it's also New Orleans Saints. Those are my two teams that people are penciling in for success that I am just confused.
Yeah, I think the reason I like the Eagles, especially in that division, is that the division is just so bad. So, I mean, they're going to pick up wins against the Commanders. They're going to pick up wins against the Giants. And with the injuries that Dallas has on the offensive line and no true second receiving option, I don't know. I just don't see how they don't win the division. I think they've got too many easy games there. And if you look at their beginning of their schedule, they can start hot, and they finished strong last year.
Ugh. I like watching them. I just think that it was a mess. It looked like a jumbled mess, and it's it doesn't matter how good your players are if it is like a jumbly mess every time you take a snap. But I mean, maybe they put it together. Maybe it looks amazing.
They won games when it counted at the end of the year. I mean, they made a run.
They did make a run. So
we'll see if they could have given up.
What about the Saints on the other side of it? The Saints, I'm hearing a lot of talk. A podcast and otherwise penciled in for success. Kamara penciled in for success. I am not so sure.
Okay, so why don't you like them?
I think it's Jabuins. I can't. Him taking the snaps. We've seen it. We've seen it so many times, and how is it gonna be a success story this time? I don't understand that. In combination with Dennis Allen, who really is just a grandpa on the sideline, like one of those hires where we're going for the number 1 pick next year. It feels like a Lovie Smith pick. I don't know. It's they're being overshot at the very least. I think that's a bad team. Maybe I'm wrong.
Who's he gonna? Yeah, I don't like Dennis Allen either, but the thing is that his defense is the one that has continually given Brady problems since he's been in Tampa Bay. And the other thing is, who's he going to get out-coached by in the South?
Himself? I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things where it's really easy to, blow your own tire.
Well, we've talked about a couple of the teams. Let's just kind of hop into the big picture NFL. What about playoff predictions for AFC and NFC? Who do you kind of see in these divisions? We kind of heard who you don't like. Who do you like?
Whew. Well, obviously we have the top handful, right? I think that if you're looking at the AFC, you've got your Bills, right? We're penciling in Bills, we're penciling in Chiefs. Uh, our division will pass on for the moment, and then if you go to the South, people have been penciling in what, the Colts, the Titans. I guess it has to be the Colts. So if we're looking at the tops of each division in the AFC, I think that that's what we're looking at for all of the other divisions except ours. And ours seems to have the most interesting layout, right? For what we're going to see happen in the AFC side. Now the NFC side I think is a little more they're evenly matched in each division, is at least my opinion of it. You jump into each one, it's like, oh, we have four middlings, we have four bad teams, we have four good teams. It's like they're going to cannibalize themselves. That one I think is a little less sure. I've heard things on podcasts. I don't know if you saw Schrager pick all four NFC West teams. Is that what he did? All four NFC West teams to make the playoffs. What a call! That's a but you can see it. I mean, you just look at the list and it would make sense. What are your who are you having fall out? What's your big call for the playoffs?
Yeah, I got a couple. So I'm taking the Bills in the East. I think the Patriots are falling off. I don't believe in the Dolphins until I see it, and the Jets are a mess. So give me the Bills. I'm taking the Ravens in the North. I think that their defense is going to be top 5, top 6. You add that in with Lamar, who's probably going to be playing for a big deal. I don't see him signing a contract, so he's going to be playing big. And I don't believe in the Bengals taking the division because I think they got a lot of schedule breaks last year that they're not going to get this year. So give me the Ravens in the North. I'm going Chargers in the West, not the Chiefs. I think it's underrated the players and pieces they picked up on defense. And if they can get more out of their defense and have Derwin James play the whole year, I think it's a different story for them. Colts in the South. And then my wild cards, give me the Bengals, who play worse than last year but still make the playoffs. Give me the Chiefs and the Broncos. So my fall-off teams, I don't believe in the Titans. I think Henry's going to get hurt, and I just don't like the energy around the quarterback situation. And then I don't see the Patriots coming up. I see Patriots at 6 or 7 wins. Of course, you don't want to doubt Belichick. It's like, don't doubt Belichick or LeBron, but every local reporter that's followed the team for years continues to say it's a dumpster fire there.
Yeah, there's definitely no optimism coming out of Pat's camp.
So those are my 2 fallout teams. So Titans made it last year. Patriots made it last year. I've got those 2 falling off.
Yeah, and the Browns miss. I mean, it's definitely there. You can see that happening. One of these teams is going to be a surprise. You know, there always is. It may be the Dolphins, like you had mentioned. I don't really. I'm in the don't believe it till you see it camp as well. Tua is just not. I'm not seeing it at all, right? So I'm not convinced that it can work, even if he's just throwing little dump passes around. There has to be some sort of threat, right? And then the AFC South is just not competitive, really, in any way. They're all competing for the number 1 pick. The Titans are trying to figure out if Ryan Tannehill can still be, a quarterback, and they have nobody to throw to anymore. So the AFC is in an interesting spot. AFC West will be really fun to watch this year. Just like that's going to be a fun division. They might end up beating on each other. That could help us in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And the Broncos, dark horse in it. I think that if it's not the Chiefs, I could see the Broncos as well. So I know you like the Chargers. I hope they do well, but there's like a curse on that team. So.
Yeah. I mean, you can't live in one of the most beautiful places on earth and have a good football team. That's why I think they're first. So it's one or the other.
Yeah. Well, flip it over to the NFC. I dabbled a little bit over here.
Okay.
If I work my way down the list, we have the NFC East. What are we thinking there?
Yeah, so I'm hanging my hat on the Eagles. We talked about that. I think they've got enough offense. I think they've got a bad division, and the Cowboys being damaged goods, I think they pull that out. I think there's going to be a Super Bowl hangover, but give me the Rams in the West. I think they're just so talented. If Stafford's arm stays attached to his body, I think they'll be okay. In the North, I'm taking the Vikings. I don't think the Packers continue that dominant run. I don't believe in their defense. And it doesn't seem like Aaron Rodgers, who normally doesn't like anyone to begin with, he seems like he really doesn't like anyone at all.
He like Joe Rogan?
Yeah, give me the Vikings. I'm going with the Saints, even though you poo-pooed them. I don't think anyone's going to get out-coached there. And I think Tampa Bay blows up. I think we are 8 or 9 games in the season, and people are talking about how did we think this team was going to be good. And then wild card, I still have Green Bay making the playoffs. I've got San Francisco making the playoffs, and then I've got the Cowboys limping in just because they're going to pick up those easy wins in division.
I'm with you on the Buccaneers explosion. My comp for that has been the Lakers season with LeBron, where it's like he'll come back. It's going to be great after the championship. They win it in the bubble. It comes back, and the wheels just start falling off, man. And it's still, oh, we'll come back again. We'll do it again. It's like, oh, put them right up here in the betting odds. I think it could easily be a dumpster fire in Tampa Bay. It's heading that way quickly. You need a line, especially when your quarterback's 55 years old. I think a surprising NFC South pick for me, I'm going to go with the Panthers. It's gross. I feel gross saying it. But, look at the division. I don't believe in the Saints. I think the Tampa could be a dumpster fire. And surprisingly, Matt Ja Rule's got an okay team. And if Baker Mayfield is 80% of the Baker Mayfield he was 2 years ago, they can win this division. They don't have to be amazing to do it. There's going to be some other teams getting whooped on around here, especially the Falcons. Yikes.
Yeah, I can see if the Panthers make the playoffs, they're not a wild card. It's going to be one of those 9-8, won the division with tiebreakers, going to make it. It's not going to be a, hey, we're 10-7 and make it because we're the wild card. It's going to be a win a division because it's a bad division kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, man, DJ Moore has been one of the most consistent receivers in the NFL since he's been in the league. McCaffrey's a stud. I don't know much about their defense. I mean, they've drafted a couple corners the last couple years, but it's not crazy.
Yeah, it could definitely happen. I think that's a fun one. I think that NFC West is going to be wild. The Seahawks naming Geno Smith the starting QB is it's a sad, white flag moment. What's the upside? What's best case scenario? You get the number 1 pick, right? You can't be trying to win games.
Yeah, that's why they're not signing somebody. I mean, they're giving Geno, he's been in the system, but Geno didn't play awful at the end of the year when Russ was hurt. I mean, I think people think about the Seahawks and how bad the year ended. It's because Russ came back to it early to prove that he's superhuman and that he heals faster than anyone else. And they played awful with Russ. They were at least competitive. They weren't good, but they weren't competitive, at least with Geno.
Yeah, they weren't. They definitely weren't good. I'll ride with you on that one. And up to the NFC East, for me, I think there's going to be a little bit of a surprise here, right? I think the Eagles are bad. So I think they're going to lose games. They may win every game. This will be the hill I die on. But I think that the Carson Wentz Commanders are going to be one of those teams that could very well be like the 3-0 team or the 4-0 team. And you're like, what is going on? They're not going to make the playoffs, but I think they may be in a position to really piss some people off near the end. I think they can win some games. Ron Rivera, rousing halftime speeches. We don't know what's going to happen. Carson Wentz went to a Super Bowl before.
I do not see this happening at all, ever. Not going to happen. But, I mean, I could be wrong.
That's just for funsies. That one's just in case it does happen. I think it would be very fun. But out of all the teams in that division, surprisingly, that Commanders team doesn't even look that far behind, right? That's the sad part with them.
Yeah, I mean, if you get Chase Young back, The defense was good, 2 years ago? They were disappointing last year, even with Chase Young there. So, I mean, if they come back full force,
They traded for Wentz.
they've got talent at the skill positions. They really do.
Yep.
And Wentz's QBR, he was a QBR 9 last season. I mean, he was awful when it came to turnovers, but he was efficient. He threw the ball down the field. It's just he couldn't keep control of the ball. So, hey, can they keep the turnovers down and make a run? Maybe. No, I lied. No, they can't do that.
No, they can't. There's absolutely no way. The only other team I see on this entire list that's getting absolutely dumped on in the offseason is the Bears. And as a Justin Fields stan, I'd just like to see them do well. Well at all. Like, well as in they are in football games, kind of competing, maybe a la the Lions of last year, maybe a little better just for fun on their part. But that sort of competitiveness would be really fun to see Justin Fields get to play in a game where Matt Nagy's not absolutely destroying the game plan before he even steps on the field,
Yeah. Do you have them as the worst team in the league?
I think that it's going to be the Jaguars. I know that people are up on the Jaguars, but I don't see it. I think they overspent. I think they're bad. I think it's going to be the Jaguars. Then I think it's somewhere between the Bears and the Texans. And then if the Commanders aren't playing, spoiler, they're going to be absolutely terrible. That's if they're not spoilers, it's going to be like they didn't win a game this year. Yeah. That's the two ways that Wentz thing might go,
Okay, all right.
You don't like my Jaguars as the worst team.
I wasn't expecting it, that's all. I think it's because I've heard so many positive things come out of camp that I really didn't think about them being one of the worst teams. But, hey, man, you're right. They haven't done anything. And
I just want to
Lawrence
see
hasn't
something
done
from Lawrence.
Yeah.
He hasn't done it at the next level yet.
Peterson is getting a lot of credit. Like, when he was kicked out of Philadelphia, he was, like, tarred and feathered, and people were just totally against him. And now, 2 years later, he's, like, the quarterback whisperer, and he's going to get Ingram to have a resurgence at tight end, and the team's much different. I don't know. I don't see that, but...
Mixed messaging across the board. Is it Etienne's backfield? Is it, like, what's going on? I just don't understand. That team is just I won a Super Bowl is not the only reason to hire someone. It's a ridiculous notion to bring someone in and say because he was the head coach of a Super Bowl team, he can fix this mess. If winning championships was a reason that you could fix messes, we would have saw it fixed last year. We saw what pouring gasoline on a fire does in the Urban Meyer case. And boy, was he some gasoline.
But here's the thing. There's 32 people that really believe that winning a Super Bowl matters and coaching resumes, and they're the ones making the hires.
That's fair. We are two of those 32 people, and you'll have to find the two in the league that are not.
Yeah.
There are two liars out there. We believe we'll take that spot.
All right.
What did you see this week? Did you see that? What did you see this week?
I did. It was probably a little bit closer to the Lost Pod, but I'm throwing in this one. So, have you ever heard of a gentleman called Ray Caldwell?
I have not.
Okay, so I don't know why everyone doesn't know this man. So, in 1919, he was a star pitcher prospect for the Cleveland Indians. And he was just a beast. They really thought he was going to be the next coming, one of the greatest pitchers ever. He's out there in the ninth inning of a complete game with one out. It starts raining, and anybody that knows that's been in Cleveland knows that storm's coming off the lake pretty quick. And they're trying to finish the game, and the man gets hit by lightning. Gets hit by lightning so hard that his chest is on fire. They had to put him out. Put the fire out, and when they were doing that, the players were being shocked because he was so charged with electricity. They think he's dead. He comes back to conscious, stands up, stretches out, and finishes the game. Gets the win, and 17 days later pitches a no-hitter. Never missed a start, finished the game all after being hit by lightning. It was just an incredible story. I happened to see it on a link, and it was, it's been over 100 years now, but we've got players that have stubbed toes that miss a game. This guy got hit by lightning, practically died, and then came back and finished strong. So big shout out to Ray Caldwell. You're the man.
That Ray Caldwell story is shocking.
Literally.
Literally. Yes, sir. I've never seen that. I don't know how, especially being in Ohio. You think that they would have like that play on the scoreboard before games every game. They're like, do you know Ray Caldwell?
Right.
Rain delay Ray. That's what they should call it. Rain
Thank
delay
you.
Ray. And they tell this story every single time because they're like, we didn't used to go in under shelter.
Right.
Bunch of babies.
Yeah, all these people that complain about not even, pitchers pitching more than 5 innings now. This dude pitched 9 innings, got hit by lightning, and finished.
He was feeling a little low, got zapped, and just finished the game. That is wild. No, I had never seen that. That's pretty cool.
Okay, what did you see? What came up on your radar this week?
Mine's a little different. I was going to talk a little bit about a contract signed by one R.J. Barrett for the Brooklyn Knicks, or not the Brooklyn Knicks, the New York Knicks. Very interesting, though. How would you feel if, when you signed the biggest contract of your life so far, the reporting was immediately like, well, we didn't get Donovan right away, so.
I wouldn't feel bad at all as I counted those millions.
That's fair. It does seem like a little bit dunking on RJ. The media let no air go towards, wow, RJ's good. They got him on a 4-year deal, which I think if he is as good as they think he is, the 4-year deal is quite valuable. It floats into the next CBA. So that gives you a valuable contract when they start to balloon, somebody to move around in the middling.
Yeah, the thing that I saw that was the craziest thing to me was that he's the first rookie to sign an extension with the Knicks after being drafted since Ward.
Yes. Yep.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was like 360p, the video. Like they were showing side by side. Yeah, that is insane. You have to think of the incompetence at the highest levels for such a long time. Just
it's
constant
crazy.
turnover, constant turnover, to the point where you never re-signed a top pick, that's just nuts.
Yeah, I didn't resign to a max extension. I think that was the key,
That's
right?
fair. Yes,
Because some of those guys got signed to a lesser deal, but I'm not mad at Worldwide Wes. I mean, hey man, he's saying this is the deal. Here's the deadline. We're happy with RJ. I like RJ. I think he's still got some runway left on him. Yeah, the kid plays hard, and he seems like he wants to be there, which I can say, is more than I can say for some people. But he's playing hard, so.
I'm interested to see, can he take a step? Can he be a little bit better? They're hoping he is. They're not just hoping he takes a step. They're hoping he takes a couple, right? That's a contract that says, hey, in 3 years, you're going to be valuable at this price in our eyes. And if not, you're going to be a valuable trade chip. Hopefully you land somewhere you like. Do you think that Donovan Mitchell still ends up on that team? That's most of the reason that this caught my attention in the first place. It wasn't the contract for RJ. It was the fact that it was simultaneously reported with the trade may or not go through now. Who knows?
Yeah. Unless one of the 12 people that watch our podcast are salary cap experts, somebody's going to catch me on this, but I believe since he signed it, he can't be traded till December now, right? Is that right? RJ can't be traded.
I think so. It's something like that.
So it's going to be at least till December till he can get traded. And now all that's changed is that the numbers are going to be a little bit easier to match. So the Knicks don't have to add in the little junk side players. So I don't think it changes the compensation. It's still going to be built around RJ, and it's going to be built around 5 draft picks or 6 draft picks or whatever it is that Utah wants. Do I think it gets done? I don't know. I don't think so.
There's a Wizards rumor floated today that I saw
That they want Mitchell?
that they're the other team competing.
I don't see
Feels
what
gross.
Mitchell does for either one of those teams.
Right.
I don't see him pushing them over the top. And I don't know. I don't see it.
I
see
think
it
the
for
team that he goes to, the only team right now that I can think of in the East where he could move and it's immediately a contention is the Heat. And that's just because of the Heat being the Heat. Really, more than anything, you just add him in there as another player to throw into that stew that is Heat culture or whatever's going on down there. They're going to be fine. I
Yeah,
think
but
that would be a weird spot for him.
Who's Utah going to get back?
I don't know. I guess they get Duncan Robinson, you get Tyler Hero, and then however many picks you want, I guess.
Yeah, but the Heat picks are never good picks because they're always good. Like they always
Maybe you
compete.
get Oladipo, unless he's
Oh
not
my
able
God,
to be
saying
traded.
that out loud is awful.
I know. As I said it, it was like, oof.
Okay, do you want to hear my draft or my trade that I think would work and I think both sides are interested?
Yes, let's do it. Who doesn't
Ben
love a fake
Simmons
trade?
to Utah.
Oh. Okay. What do they get back?
I don't think Durant wants to play with Ben Simmons. I think that the dude does not love basketball like he does, and I think there's going to be conversation about this guy is not the guy we want on the team. And what I think they can send back a player. They get Donovan. And I think that there's a way to either loop in a third team with some other pieces and parts or draft pick compensation to make it worthwhile. But I don't see Utah getting a player back the caliber of the potential of a Ben Simmons. And I think Utah would rally around Ben Simmons and not give him the boo birds every night and really kind of make him their guy. I know he probably doesn't want to be there, but
He might.
beggars can't be choosers.
Apparently, there's this underlying culture in the NBA where they like Utah. I don't know. I think that people like Utah, but it's kind of out there in the middle of nowhere land. That's a great trade. Like, really good. Like, Danny Ainge, if Ben Simmons can play basketball, that's a great trade.
What, for Utah or for
Just in
the
general.
Nets or both?
Like, can he dribble basketballs on the court? We do not know. Can he jump over the hurdle of, like, putting on a jersey and going on a court right now? Because from everything we read at the end of the season, he seemed perfectly capable of doing so. And he didn't.
Well, we're getting to the point where Donovan Mitchell's going to being sick of having his name in the press, and he's going to say, like, let's do this. If you're trading me, like, let's make this happen. Because I promise you he doesn't want to play in Utah for a 35-win team.
Right. Well, and he'll James Harden it, too, taking nights off, eating cheeseburgers until he's no longer on that team.
I mean, he was doing that on defense in the playoffs, so don't think he won't do it on a Tuesday night in Minnesota.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was trying to get Rudy gone, and I think he blew the entire ship up.
If they would have gotten a win now package back for Rudy, I think he would have been okay, but Danny Ainge hasn't ever been one of those people to be a win now, even when he could have landed Kawhi with the Celtics or AD with the Celtics. He was never willing to put his blue chip pieces in a deal to bring those big winners home. He always wanted the flexibility of the future and the value of those picks. So it was no surprise to me that Gobert got traded for futures and not for a star player.
Yeah. It's wild the return they got on Gobert. If they get anywhere near that for Mitchell as well, those two guys have just turned that team into a very, very interesting future team. Whether they end up in the lottery this year or not really depends on what happens with Mitchell in the next couple weeks, next couple months,
Yeah, and you only have to be in the top 3 worst teams to have the same percent, right?
Yeah.
In the lottery, no one's going to be worse than the Spurs.
Right.
So there's 2 other slots there that people are going to be going for because they're going to want Wembanyama.
Yeah.
Wembanyama, yeah. So I don't know. It's there. It's there if they want to go get it. It's just, do you want to throw all your chips in?
Yeah. Yeah. You want to do on the last Lost pod, we jumped into a little dabble in fantasy. You want to do a 5 minutes on fantasy and hop off of here?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I checked the mail. So if you all have any questions on fantasy, we'd be happy to answer for you. At did you see as in Cleveland that sports.gmail.com. So check that out. Yeah, what do you want to talk about? You lead the way and I'll follow you around.
So Ryan does this thing where he likes to let me throw him hints in fantasy. Since we're in 2 leagues together, he's trying to make me give up my secrets. We've been dancing around trades, and what I wanted to talk a little bit about today is pre-season trading in fantasy football, the advantages gained and the potential that could be lost. You've made a couple trades already. I've been dancing around a handful. It's my favorite part of playing fantasy football. But do you think that it is smart to be trading in fantasy prior to the season starting? And we won't show this to the other people in the league.
Yeah, I think that the preseason fantasy trades are like future stock markets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You are making a bigger gamble on things because you're not going off of game time decisions and what's going to happen. So I think it just matters on what your roster construction looks like and who you actually believe in. So if you know what you want, then I think it's good.
That's fair.
But have you done your homework? Have you looked at the players? And no trade is ever going to be a guaranteed win. So I think you always take your risks. So my thing would be is if you do a snake draft, sometimes you just can't put yourself in a position to get everyone in your lineup. Or you can't say, hey, I'll trade my 4th and 5th for your 3rd because they just don't like that. But if you packaged the people you took in the 4th and 5th, you could get someone's 3rd round pick. So that's why I usually never draft a tight end. I always feel like someone's willing to throw them into a trade. And I would never actually spend that draft value on a tight end, but I could trade other people for them. And I also feel like sometimes bench players that go late in drafts don't feel valuable until you look at your whole roster and then you're like, wow, that guy on that other team's really good. I like him. And you can pull some 2-for-1s and really upgrade your roster that way. So,
yeah, I agree. We have friends within the league that have philosophies of not making any trades prior to at least the season starting or even a couple weeks in, and as fun as that sounds to just sit there and watch those guys over and over, I love the trading. I can't get away. And I'm doing the opposite this year specifically. I am in a league where I sold the house to win the championship last year, and I don't have a lot of assets, but I am attempting to break a blue chip into a couple potential pieces to just really, more than anything, field a roster, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm pushing around trades prior to the season. If you have a purpose for it, I think that's the right way to go. If you look at your roster, like Ryan said, and you see it and you go, I kind of like what I'm looking at here, don't mess with it. Ride it. Let's see what happens. If you have a potential, though, to take one of those guys in the starting lineup and take a guy on your bench and turn those 2 into a new guy in the starting lineup, I think that's the win everybody's looking for, right? So
yeah, the other thing is I don't feel like there's very much action on the waiver wires prior to the season starting. There's not a lot of people picking people up. Otherwise they would have took them in their draft. So if I do a 2-for-1, a 3-for-1, something like that before the season starts, I'm getting free dibs on the waiver wire. So there are some still talented players. So even though I might be giving up 3, there might be 2 people on the waiver wire that I actually like just as much as my last couple picks, or maybe even better. So I don't feel like I'm losing anything when I do that. I also very rarely ever draft a defense because I stream defenses. So I always pick an extra player to hold on my roster until week 1. One for trading, so I could do a 2-for-1 to give me some extra ammo. And the other thing is just to protect myself from injury in case there was somebody that got hurt. So That's just kind of my strategy looking at some of those drafts.
Yeah, that's definitely a good strat. We're coming up quickly on a real week 1 here, so we're going to do a little bit of fantasy talk here and there. It's never going to be super specific to the problems that we're facing, but if there's a trade or two that happened in the league, you're definitely going to hear about it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna throw out there a fantasy league idea that I've come up with. So
Yeah, let's do
are
it.
you ready?
I'm sitting back.
Okay, so it's kind of like a fantasy stock market. Okay, so it's an auction draft, and whoever bids that player up and actually wins that player. So let's say you bid up Tom Brady for $30. You win that player. You get the first dibs to buy up to 10 shares of that player at $30. So you could get 5 shares of him or all 10 or however you want to do it. Once you pick your shares, then anyone else can get the shares until all 10 shares are bought. You do that with everyone in the league, so you have a gigantic roster. But if you only have 5 shares of Tom Brady, you only get 50% of any points that he puts out into the league.
Okay.
So you can spread your roster out on many quarterbacks and get a little pieces and parts off each one. You could really focus all your money in on specific players and try and go high velocity and try and just really stack up some blue chip stocks, if you were. But then you kind of open yourself to, if someone is hurt, you don't have much to fall back on.
So I like that. I think it's interesting because somehow you've made it so that I can play 10 QBs at once, you know?
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, it's a very interesting thing. Do you have a set amount of money? Is that the idea? How does that work?
Yep. So you got a set amount of money that just at the beginning of the auction, like everybody else's auction, normal auction league. And then you just kind of go from there.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't hate it. I think that'd be fun. The only hard part would be when I buy half of a guy's shares and no one else buys any.
Yes.
You know, that's where it would get a little weird and hard to keep track of. But hey, Sleeper, if you're listening, I know you do weird stuff all the time. Let's throw some pie graphs together and see what this thing can do.
How does Sleeper not have a contract league set up?
I don't know. You know, you think that they're pushing in on like Dynasty and they're doing some other weird stuff, but no payout, no contract leagues at all.
Yeah, don't get it.
Like that's a massive calling too. There are a ton of people I know that are, if they're not in a league that's Dynasty with contracts, they want to be. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and this is the other thing. A lot of these sites that do the fantasy, FanDuel or Sleeper, whoever, I mean, they're also taking over-under bets all the time now in those states that allow it. I don't know why they just don't do the league fees and handle that for each league and take a percentage of it out for maintenance. And then you never have to worry about collecting dues from people. You don't have to worry about them getting paid out on time, going to the right people or whatever the case may be. Because, you know, I manage a couple different fantasy leagues, and sometimes, man, it's hard to keep track of who's paid, who hasn't paid, who's getting when you send everything out.
It's spreadsheet material sort of stuff, you know? Like I have a whole setup at the end of the year. I have like sit down for an hour, start drawing out who paid what when, who gets paid out back. I think Yahoo actually does that. I'm in a Yahoo league for family this year, and it sent a thing where you can pay in right there, and it would keep track of it and pay out. It looked like a pretty set structure, though. So you had like a couple options of how it's paying out. But I think if there was even if, you know, a Sleeper and or a fantasy football, you know, parallel, maybe a UDK, you know, or something from our fantasy footballers friends, where they build that, you know, that'd be a fun thing to have.
No doubt. All right. Well, we got college football this week. We got some Guardians coming up. So we'll have a good little week. We'll touch base later this week. Is that good?
Yep. Sounds good. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this one's audio actually worked. And if it didn't, you'll never know anyway. This has been episode 4 of Did You See That? The podcast. We're going to go ahead and see you later this week. Adios.
Bye.